To cap off the final Stranger Things day before a new season of the show comes out, we were gifted with the first 5 minutes of season 5. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I've got my breakdown of the first 5 minutes of Stranger Things Season 5. That's right, the first 5 minutes of Episode 1, The Crawl, have been released online. You can go watch them right now. I even have a reaction I'll link up above, but I'm here to break it down and give you my predictions and theories based on what we've seen in Season 5 thus far. Before I get into this, hit that like button, comment down below your theories, your take on this opening moment, this opening scene from Stranger Things Season 5, and of course, subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you want extra content, including a deep dive into every episode of Stranger Things called Stranger Things Rewind, and my full uncut reaction to the first 5 minutes, Patreon is the place to be. Any support over there truly does mean the world. It's also 12:45 in the morning as I record this. I'll be up late editing, so please hit that like button. It would mean a lot. But just like I do with all the trailers and footage we get for Stranger Things, it's time to break this down. So the Season 5 opening is identical to the script lines that were released on Stranger Things Day 2023. Those script lines, of course, read, "Darkness, the sound of cold wind, groaning trees, and a child's voice singing a familiar song." And this could not have been a more accurate script-to-screen description of what we see here. We open with darkness and see Castle Byers in the Upside Down. It's got the classic signs out front with "All Friends Welcome," home of Will the Wise, and of course Castle Byers. We then start to hear Will Byers singing "Should I Stay or Should I Go?" Of course, this is the mega popular song from Season 1 by The Clash, that Jonathan plays for Will back at home in Season 1, Episode 2, and helps to drown out the noise of Joyce and Lonnie fighting in the background. One could even argue this is Will Byers' song in the same sense that "Running Up That Hill" is Max's song in Stranger Things Season 4. Of course, "Should I Stay or Should I Go?" is then played again in Season 2 when Will is tied up in the Byers shed out back to help drown out surrounding noise and not allow the Mind Flayer or Vecna to locate Will and send the Demodogs on them all. So like I said, it could be a song that helps save him from Vecna, at least for a little bit. Now, if you remember back to Season 1, Episode 7, The Bathtub, that episode actually concludes with the young Will Byers inside Castle Byers in the Upside Down, and you guessed it, he's singing "Should I Stay or Should I Go?" The Demogorgon then breaks through the roof of Castle Byers and the episode cuts to black, and the next time we would see Will is when Hopper and Joyce rescue him in the Season 1 finale when he's in Hawkins' library tied up. Well, here in the Season 5 opening, we see a young Will Byers inside of Castle Byers singing "Should I Stay or Should I Go?" And we can quickly realize this is a recreation of the same moment from the end of Episode 7 in Season 1. And this time, we're finally going to get to see what happens to Will and how he ends up in Hawkins' library. As we enter Castle Byers, we get our first official glimpse of the de-aged, younger version of Will Byers laying down. And I gotta admit, it looks pretty solid for the most part. Later on in this opening, it's a bit more noticeable. But for now, it looks damn near great if you factor in the technological limitations that are just inherent with de-aging tech. But again, looking back at the end of Season 1, Episode 7, the final thing we see is Castle Byers caving in as the Demogorgon breaks in, and here, without skipping a beat, we pick up immediately as we see the Demogorgon growling at Will. Will then fires a shot of his rifle into the Demogorgon and proceeds to haul ass out of there. Of course, this is the same rifle that Will is loading up in the shed out back when he's initially taken by the Demogorgon in the cold opening of the first episode of the entire show. But as Will evades this Demogorgon, he's seen running through the Upside Down to a tree that he climbs to the top of, and I gotta give it to him. He's agile. He's kind of like a spider monkey. But as he climbs to the top of the tree, there's a red lightning strike that flashes in the sky. And I have to humor the theory that these red lightning strikes could all be the eye of Vecna. And every time lightning strikes in the Upside Down, it's him watching over everything. So this time, it's him notifying the Demogorgons or other creatures of Will's location. Just a fun theory. Let me know what you think of it down below. But once Will reaches the top of this tree, he's actually seen looking around for the Demogorgon down below. To me, this is where the de-aging technology really stood out as potentially spotty or iffy, but it's not something I'm going to hold against the show. It's the world we live in where de-aging tech is impossible to look as good as the actual actor did when they were that age, if that makes sense. To me, it still maintains the illusion of it being younger Will, and I'm not taken out of the show because there's a little bit of a wonky moment with some CGI. But the Demogorgon then arrives and starts to climb up this tree after Will on a freaking mission, to which Will realizes his best option is to take a leap of faith to a nearby tree as he spots a branch sticking out that he could potentially latch onto. But just as that Demogorgon is about to snag Will, he jumps to the next tree and narrowly avoids the Demogorgon. This, of course, is the shot that we first saw back in the teaser trailer in July. And our theories were correct about this being young Will evading a Demogorgon. However, in this moment, as far as we know right now, Will Byers does not possess a physical set of powers. He's just a natural-born athlete. Will ends up missing the branch though and falling down the tree till his backpack gets him stuck on a branch, and he's literally hanging there until the strap of his backpack comes loose and he falls to the ground unconscious. As he lays there, he's dragged away and there's a cut to black as the Demogorgon has snatched him. However, Will's backpack is left behind, meaning that it still remains in the Upside Down in present day, as the Upside Down is frozen in time on November 6, 1983. So the question I ask is, will that backpack come into play in Stranger Things Season 5? You would have to imagine it would. I'm also just a big fan of the new score that we've heard so far in the first 5 minutes. Like, this is just a little taste of what the music department's gonna cook up for us in this final season with Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein. We're gonna be feasting. I can't even conceive of what they have for us in that finale. The next shot happens to be the first shot from the official trailer that shows Hawkins' library in the Upside Down with a red lightning strike overhead. So I was correct in assuming this would be associated with Will flashbacks. Inside Hawkins' library, we see Will tossed to the ground by a Demogorgon who's just successfully delivered him to none other than Vecna, who enters frame from the shadows. This further establishes the power dynamics of the Upside Down in my mind. Like, it shows that Vecna has total control over the Demogorgons and all the other entities down there. They just act as his pawn and follow his every order. Vecna then enters from the shadows, and you can immediately notice this is his pre-Season 5 redesign, as of course, this is on November 6, 1983 in the Upside Down, the date that time is frozen on down there. And you can immediately notice that Vecna's right arm looks more human than normal, indicating that he could just be slowly losing his humanity as time passes. If you'll recall, he's sent to Dimension X by L after the massacre at Hawkins' lab on September 8th, 1979. So where he's at right now is a little over 4 years later, and he looks a lot more like a monster like we know Vecna to look like in Season 4, but he's still retaining some of the human physical traits, like his arm, for example. Looks like it has almost human skin on it. Especially if you compare this look to the Season 5 redesign, it's clear that him becoming more and more of a monster is a slow process over time. Vecna then approaches Will's out-of-commission body and controls some vines on the ground to tie him up to the wall. And as he walks over to Will, he says, "At long last, we can begin." This, of course, is a line from the trailer that gave me chills. Vecna then summons a vine that looks eerily familiar. My mind immediately went to Season 3, specifically when we see the physical form Mind Flayer flaying Tom and his wife. As you can see right here, this is the process of someone being flayed, which is really just what I'm going to call it for the purposes of this video. But the physical form Mind Flayer is clearly depositing something inside of these people, or sucking like the life force energy out of these people to gain more power. And it does so with every victim that it takes in Season 3, all of the flayed. So whatever's happening to Will looks very similar, and it really to me seems like something's being pumped inside of Will from these sacs that we've never really seen in Stranger Things, unless they just so happen to be these egg-like objects that Hopper walks by in the Upside Down in Season 1 en route to rescuing Will, because those things look like something straight out of Alien from 1979. Regardless, it seems like we're getting more lore on what powers or fuels Vecna and the Mind Flayer physically, like what gives them a source of energy or enhances them. Like, is this process of the tubes attaching to people to deposit something, or is it actually, again, sucking the life force out of them to strengthen or feed them physically? In that case, these sacs could just be storing that energy. Whatever way you want to spin it, let me know in the comments down below. We'll get a definitive answer in Season 5. I'm not worried about it. It's just fun to theorize which way it could go as of right now. I mean, we do know Henry Creel has said that each time he kills, he gets stronger, and that the victims he kills become a part of him, so this could be kind of playing into that notion. In fact, if you actually look at Vecna in this moment as the camera zooms in on Will, it appears as though he may be growing more monster-like and damn near getting stronger, so it's hard to say, but I'm starting to lean that this process is strengthening Vecna and the Mind Flayer. But like I mentioned, I'm sure we'll get a classic Duffer lore dump that irons all this out in Season 5. But another fact we know is that Will coughs up what I will refer to as slugs in the bathroom sink at the end of Season 1. So perhaps the Mind Flayer and Vecna are using Will and all other humans that get killed as sources to breed Demogorgons and other creatures. Think of it almost as like eggs being laid inside of them. If that's the case, they're going full alien with the concept of like a chest burster alien who then evolves into a face hugger, then a full-on xenomorph. I'm here for all the alien references, trust, but I'm just interested to see how they go about it. Anyway, Vecna then speaks as he says, "You and I, we are going to do such beautiful things together, such beautiful things. The shot then shows Will visibly struggling to breathe. His eyes are rolled in the back of his head like all of Vecna's victims are, and Vecna places his hand on Will's head while all of this is going down, revealing a very human-like arm. Even in Vecna's voice, you can hear a bit of the Jamie Campbell Bower humanity coming through, letting the audience know he isn't transformed in that full season 5 monster that we see. But as the camera slowly zooms in on Will, you can in fact see tears. This is very clearly a traumatic experience that changed him as a person forever. And as we know with trauma in this show, it can actually trigger a defense mechanism where the human mind shuts out any memory of a traumatic or negative experience, making someone forget that it ever even happened. This is actually shown with Elle in season 4 in the massacre at Hawkins' lab. She has to rediscover that memory, and it ends up strengthening her powers when she rediscovers it. In fact, it's what allows her to fully gain her powers back. So this concept's already been introduced in the show with 11. They could maybe make it make sense for Will here too. I mean, if you remember in season 1 when he wakes up in the hospital in the finale, he has no recollection of Vecna or doesn't speak on it, but rather he talks about how the Demogorgon got him. So he could be so traumatized by this encounter with Vecna that he only remembers running from the Demogorgon up until the point where he falls off a tree, hits his head, and gets knocked out cold. However, as I've been saying for a while now in my videos, I believe that over the course of this season, Will is slowly going to remember Vecna leading up to their ultimate encounter that we now see in the trailer. And I think we could even get some sprinkles of more flashbacks throughout that actually tie in with the present day plotline. That's why we have shots of like Will wandering off from the group and almost having like his season 2 moments. All the now memories might actually be flashes to things he genuinely was seeing in the Upside Down. It's just food for thought. Another thing of note is the money shot of Vecna sticking his hand out to Will's face clearly parallels their reunion that we see when Vecna tells Will, "You're gonna help me one last time." The Duffer's just cooked. And as we see the final shot of these first 5 minutes, we actually get a close-up of Will crying with a tube in his mouth. And it makes you wonder if in this moment from the teaser where Will is screaming as Vecna has his hand over his head, perhaps this is Will fully being hit with the wave of memories from this initial encounter with Vecna when he experienced the most traumatic event in his life so far. Only time will tell. And the final point that I have to shout out my patrons for bringing up is that what if Vecna let Joyce and Hopper rescue or save Will? Because if you remember in season 1 when Will is rescued, they get through the Upside Down pretty seamlessly. There's no Demogorgon attacks, no one comes after them. What if it was Vecna's plan all along to let Will go free so that Vecna could use him as a pawn, use him as a spy, and use him all around in all the seasons? Intriguing stuff. But then we get hit with the Stranger Things season 5 logo, and we'll have to wait and see the rest of the episode on November 26th when all 4 episodes from Volume 1 hit Netflix. But we're only 19 days away. So the final countdown is officially on. We got fed these first 5 minutes, another historic Stranger Things days in the books, and now we have to put our patience on for the next 19 days as we are so close to experiencing Volume 1. But what a way to kickstart the last season. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys make of these first 5 minutes. What are your predictions? What are your theories? What do you think's going on with Will and Vecna throughout this entire season? I want to hear it in the comments down below, and of course hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and be on the lookout for more videos coming very soon. But until next time, I'll see you on the other side of the Upside Down.